Prairie Mosaic is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008, the North Dakota Council on the Arts, and by the members of Prairie Public.
Welcome to Prairie Mosaic, a patchwork of stories about the people and places that contribute to the arts, culture, and history in our region.
Hi, I'm Bob Danback.
And I'm Barb Gravel.
On this edition, we'll watch a graffiti artist at work, listen to a poem read by a state champion, and enjoy some folk rock music.
Thomas Douglas, the 5th Earl of Selkirk, became the unexpected support for displaced families who were evicted from their homes in Scotland. Through his determination and their courage, they moved west to Manitoba, seeking refuge on the prairie.
Thomas, 5th Earl of Selkirk, was an idealist and a philanthropist, and he inherited vast sums of money because all of his brothers died young, and as a result he had a very large fortune, and he used that fortune to charter ships to take struggling Highlanders from Sutherland to Red River Settlement, which turned out to be the beginning of Winnipeg.
The landowners found it far more profitable to turn the land to sheep farming than the original small farming tenants that they had had there before that. The improvement policy was fourfold. They were encouraging wealthy sheep farmers from the south to come up to these vast areas of land where they could set their sheep out in these large sheep walks. There wasn't enough room on this land for the sheep and the people. So at that time, there was a movement to remove the small farming tenants from these inland straths. And it must have been quite a traumatic time.
Thomas, 5th Earl of Selkirk, believed that the clearances were a terrible period in Scotland's history, which brought shame to the Highlands, and he thought that the Highlanders were being offered a very poor deal.
They were encouraging the people to take on these small lots of land on the coast called crofts, and these were linear fields. Now they were no more than 2 to 3 acres. They were deliberately kept small so that the people had enough land that they could grow a few crops and vegetables, but it was kept small enough to encourage the people to go into some other kind of employment. And they were encouraging people to become fishermen. It's kind of difficult for men who've only handled the plough to come down to this coast and take up the oar, and many of them had never seen the sea before.
And so he believed that a much better opportunity for them and their children would be a life in the New World across the ocean in Canada.
The only European settlement in Western Canada was fur traders, and they weren't really settlers. They were there to trade. They weren't interested in establishing a permanent settlement.
Because of his interest in getting Highlanders into North America, Selkirk actually visited North America around about 1803, 1804. And he got to know some of the people who ran the Northwest Company, particularly people like Alexander Mackenzie, who of course had famously been right across the continent in 1793. From Mackenzie and people like that, he heard about Québécois or French-Canadian voyageurs called les prairies, the prairies. Of course, Selkirk had been nowhere near the prairies, but he was very taken with the description. And it was at this point that he began to think that perhaps the Red River area he was just the place for his Highland colony.
Selkirk had the idea that you could establish a farming settlement of Europeans. In order to do this, he had to get influence in the Hudson's Bay Company, because the Hudson's Bay Company was in charge of all of this part of the world. It was called Rupert's Land. So he realized that he could do things now. He had money in his hands, and he had the knowledge and the imagination to do something. And he persuaded the company that it should go along with a plan for a farming settlement involving Highland Scots.
This was a proposal of assisted passage. He was looking for some hardy, sturdy men to go and set up this new farming settlement in the middle of the prairies in Manitoba at a place called Red River. And this was the first agricultural settlement that was associated with the Hudson Bay Fur Trading Company. And it was quite an important part of the story. And this was really the initiative of Lord Selkirk.
And Selkirk, I think, rather to his credit, thought that at the very minimum he could do something for these people.
And Lord Selkirk heard that nearly 500 people in Kildonan had signed up for a new life, thousands of miles away from Kildonan, a place they'd never even seen before, but they knew that there was land there, and there was land that they could have if they worked hard, and they could continue working in the same way they wanted to. They would be farmers, so it was an incentive for them to go.
Thomas Selkirk didn't revisit as often as he would have wished, because he developed tuberculosis and died at a very early age. But the settlers came and they succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. It wasn't the first generation which succeeded, it was the second generation which did extremely well, and the third generation succeeded beyond their ancestors' wildest dreams.
Graffiti art ranges from simple written words to elaborate wall paintings and has existed since ancient times. Artists Paul Ide and Micah donated their time and talent to create the graffiti-themed set for Prairie Musicians, a local production produced here at Prairie Public.
My name is Micah. I'm representing Moorhead, Minnesota. My part is I am doing the letters. Paul's doing the characters. And so my job today is to make something that looks very nice, but will also kind of blend in with the set overall, you know. So I do have a big job today. Gotta make it look nice. I've been painting since 1996, so it's been a while. I got an opportunity from Paul over there to come here and paint, and that's a great thing. I enjoy it quite a bit. But see, I like working with Paul quite a bit because we complement each other in so many different ways. So when the two of us come together, we can definitely make some wonderful things happen. I'm very excited. When I draw or something like that, your hand is always kind of touching the paper in a way or something like that. Whereas spray paint, you're a little bit more detached, you know, you have to kind of trust your movements a little bit more. So it's a bit more difficult, but in the end, it's just another medium. It's all in how the art form advanced, you know, because it started with people just writing their names, you know, and then somebody decided, well, there's too many names on this wall, I want to make mine stand out. How can I do that? So they outline it with a different color, and then eventually it gets bigger and wider and things like that. To start the piece, you know, you just put your initial outline, then you fill it in, and then you do your darker outline around it. Well, projects like this are important for an artist, you know, like myself, because you're always searching for some sort of validation to what you're doing. And so, you know, when you get an opportunity like this, I mean, I feel wonderful about it, because it's almost like all that time and effort I put into learning the art form, learning the craft, it all comes back to me in that way, because you get to show off a little bit, and then people say, ooh, that looks nice. In a national sense, graffiti has been part of our identity for a very long time. Difficult to quantify for some because it's, you know, viewed as such a negative thing, but then you can go into it in a positive way, like how we're looking at it today, you know, doing this. It's a very good opportunity and it's wonderful. I enjoy it a lot. It helps me to express joy.
Poetry Out Loud is a contest that encourages the nation's youth to learn about great poetry. This program helps students master public speaking skills, build self-confidence, and learn about their literary heritage. Jacoby Wallace of Minot was North Dakota's 2015 State Poetry Out Loud champion.
I wandered, lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd. Poetry Out Loud is an organization that tries to promote poetry within younger learners in schools. My AP English teacher put it in her curriculum to have poetry out loud within the classroom, and then she made it an option for extra credit to be able to perform as a school competition. And I won at the school, and I was completely surprised. The opportunity to come to Bismarck and compete for my school was available, and I thought I'd take it. With the process of being able to be judged on the Poetry Out Loud standards, they take into account things like complexity of the poem itself, length, difficult language. One had to be 14 lines or fewer, and one had to be written pre-18th century, and then the third one didn't matter. With the performer, they take into account body language and articulation, a lot of things that are really synonymous to like how theaters are judged on. The summer of 1918, I read The Jungle and the Research Magnificent. That fall, my father died, and my aunt took me to Chicago to live. The first thing I did was to take a streetcar to the stockyards. In the winter afternoon, gritty and fetid, I walked through the filthy snow, through the squalid streets, looking shyly into the people's faces. Those who were home in the daytime, debauched and exhausted faces, starved and looted brains, faces like the faces in the senile and insane wards of charity hospitals, predatory faces of little children. I like to think that stage fright doesn't affect me, but until today, I've learned that stage fright is a very real thing in my life. I'm used to performing and being in front of a crowd, but this is a whole new ball field. There are things such as articulation I had a problem with because I'm just so used to talking and not even worrying about how I sound. And things like complexity, what I originally was like, well, I just want to get them memorized so I can get it done and over with. Then I realized there's no weight to those words, and when it's easy, then the judges can pick up on that.
Announcing our state finalist as Jacoby Wallace, Minot High School.
One thing that I know a lot of students, especially teenagers, lack is stage presence and being able to go in front of a crowd and represent themselves. I am lucky enough to be able to talk in front of anyone. That's kind of a really big part of Poetry Out Loud, is being able to just talk and being able to perform and being able to speak in front of people who you may have met seconds before walking on stage and looking into the eyes of judges that you've never seen before, you've probably heard of, and intimidate you. So I definitely suggest Poetry Out Loud just for that aspect. I wandered, lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze, continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay, 10,000. I love performing, whether it's on stage as an actor or singing or even poetry. Just being able to recite in front of people that you've just met and shown your potential in poetry. When I walk out of here, I'm going to be a lot more accepting and respondent to words and criticism and things like that. There's poetry in everything, and if it means I sing it or play it or reenact it, poetry will always be a piece of me. How I discovered poetry, I like that one because it was raw. In order to divulge into this poem and truly understand it, I had to research who the author was. And her name is Marilyn Nelson. This is how she was introduced, not in a bright and shiny way like in Poetry Out Loud, but in a kind of awful way, and to ridicule and racism. I really had to analyze what I was saying and what person I had to be in order to fully get the poem. How I Discovered Poetry by Marilyn Nelson. It was like soul kissing. The way the words filled my mouth as Mrs. Purdy read from her desk. All the other kids owned an hour ahead to the 3:15, but Mrs. Purdy and I wandered lonely as cloud borne by a breeze off Mount Parnassus. She must have seen the darkest eyes in the room brim. The next day she gave me a poem she'd chosen especially for me to read to the all except for me white class. She smiled when she told me to read it. Smiled harder, said, oh yes, I could. She smiled harder and harder until I stood and opened my mouth to banjo-playing darkies, pickaninnies, disses and dats. When I finished, my classmates stared at the floor. We walked, silent, to the buses, awed by the power of words.
The band Reina del Cid, based in Minneapolis, is enjoying some much-deserved national recognition, due in part to their intelligent and simple but sophisticated sound. Reina del Cid visited our studio and entertained us with their intoxicating yet humble stage presence.
I'm Reina del Cid. I'm in a folk rock band out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I got into music when I was about 15, and my dad bought me a guitar that we saw in an infomercial. He told me that if he got me the guitar, I'd have to take lessons for 9 months, and I did that and never looked back and started writing songs after that. So I formed the band in 2011. We've been playing out now mostly around Minneapolis, and we've been doing tours nationally. So the name Reina del Cid, El Cid was a Spanish lord in a lot of Spanish literature, and I thought if I were to name my royal blue guitar something, I would probably name it after a knight. And I thought if my guitar were a knight, then I would have to be the queen. And so Reina means queen in Spanish, so basically it's Reina del Cid is like the queen of my guitar. Medium is our sort of fast-paced party bluegrass number. I probably wrote it when I was about 16 and forgot about it for many years. Tony was kind of getting me into this bluegrass thing. She basically restructured the song, and that's the one we play when, you know, people want to get rowdy and we want to have a big dance party. That's always a really fun one for the crowd.
1, 2, 3, 4.
He begged her to remember his face and how the sun couldn't touch him where the ice used to lay. With the warm ice spring, the you've changed, but the colors are brighter now, and the moonlight softer on my way.
Audience can completely change a song as we're playing it. Just the reaction that you can get, the energy in the room, the looks on people's faces can completely change the way that we perform and the way, and even the meaning of the song. So that's something I've always really enjoyed. Death Cab is, the name sounds scary, like we're gonna scream a heavy metal song at you, and unfortunately we don't do metal folk in this band. Death Cab is a type of mushroom. It grows in the South. I read about it in National Geographic. It's kind of a mushroom that looks like all of the normal mushrooms that you find in sautés and stuff, but it will actually kill you within 2 hours of eating it. So I thought that was a really interesting motif, interesting thing to write a song about.
The baddest news of all, it comes in mid-July, and I'm standing in my summer dress. I've got tears in my eyes. The telephone's ringing, but I don't wanna go down to the river, to that river where the death cap grows. So can I stay? Oh, please, can I stay? Just one more day. Just one more day. Well, I've been a fool. From London to Rome, and just to picking mushrooms on my way back home. And I've seen more in 10 years now than I was ever meant to see. So I'm older now, I'm older now than I can stand to be. And please, can I stay? Oh, please, can I stay? Just one more day. Just one more day. For some company, and I don't know what's out there beyond all of this. So I cling to my mind and the green on the vine, if that's all that there is. And please, can I stay? Oh, please, can I stay? Just one more day. Just one more day. Or am I out of line? 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 Am I out of time?
If you know of an artist, a topic, or an organization in our region that you think might make for an interesting segment, please contact us at prairiemosaic@prairiepublic.org. I'm Barb Gravel.
And I'm Bob Dambach. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Prairie Mosaic.
Prairie Mosaic is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008, the North Dakota Council on the Arts, and by the members of Prairie Public.